Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin ti naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Hey, maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant, and the famous Los Muertos Beach, and the El Dorado Restaurant Beach Club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week, you're going to meet my friend Emily Murray from Seattle, Washington. Emily is a digital nomad of sorts who tells me that one of the reasons she ended up in Puerto Vallarta was because of a dog that she adopted from the streets of this town. Emily tells us how she made the move to Puerto Vallarta and how she makes ends meet. I mean, she's way too young to be retired, so we'll find out. We have Vallarta news and more, so before we get to Emily, let's see what's happening this week, the 22nd of February, 2023. Riverfest 2023 is almost here. It's coming up this weekend at El Rio Barbecue in Paso Ancho. That's going to be Saturday and Sunday, February 25th and 26th. Doors are open at noon. Now, Riverfest is a premier music festival with vendors, silent auction, 50-50, food, drinks, and more. The proceeds go to the children with disabilities over at Pasitos de Luz, and tickets are 500 pesos for each day that you attend. There's silent auction prizes such as hotel stays and day passes, local restaurant certificates, nail spas, hair spas, jewelry, fitness and health, adventure, art, and more. Saturday, February 25th, the musical entertainment is going to include from 12 to 1, the band called Brimstone. From 1:20 till 2:20 is going to be the availables. From 2:30 until 2:50, the Pasitos Kids. From 3 until 4, the Retro Beat. From 4:20 till 5:20, the Sticks. And from 5:30 until the closing of the event, the Texas Embassy Blues Band. Quite a lineup there. Sunday, the 26th, the entertainment's going to include from 12:30 until 1:30 mariachi music. From 2 o'clock until 3 o'clock will be Lozana, which is a tribute to Selena, La Reina del Tex-Mex. From 3:30 until 4:30, Media Luna. And at 5 o'clock, to close the event, will be Los Bambinos. Pasitos de Luz children are going to be around on Saturday, February 25th, and they will make a little short guest appearance there at around 2:30. And for more information, just come over to the website. Come to www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. Come to this particular article, and you can find out about it. It's coming right up. So buy your tickets if you're in town. Get on over there to El Rio Barbecue. It's really a worthy organization, the Pasitos de Luz. And, of course, it'll be fun. You'll meet some cool people. And the venue is just the best right over there on the river. And get over there to El Rio Barbecue this season. Like I've said before, they're going to be gone forever. They're going to be saying adios at the end of this season. I checked my email yesterday morning and opened an article from Out and About PV and was stunned to read an article from Jerry Jones which read, Louis Whitaker arrested, indicted by U.S. federal grand jury on child pornography. Now, for those of you who don't know who I'm referring to, Louis is, well, he really isn't Louis. His real name is Wyatt, according to the article, but in Vallarta, he was known as Louis Whitaker, and he arrived in Vallarta in May of 2021. Immediately, he blended right into the entertainment community. He's a handsome guy, tall, stunningly handsome, actually, and very musically talented. And Louis, well, his real name, according to the authorities, is Wyatt Maxwell. He's from Kansas City, Missouri. And according to the article in In-N-Out PV, Whitaker was last seen in Puerto Vallarta on February 14th, 2023. He was arrested after one of his shows, loaded into a van by Mexican officials, and deported to Santa Ana, California, right down the street from me. And Whitaker's real name is Wyatt Maxwell. He has an old resume posted online under that name, as well as an old and outdated LinkedIn page that has that name and his photo. He also maintained a Twitter account under that name and a Facebook page. He first came to Puerto Vallarta in May of 2021 and created his Louis Whitaker profile on Facebook in May of 2021. His first photo and post in his Louis Whitaker Facebook page was May 17th, 2021. His first check-in on Facebook was at Act 2 PV on May 27th, 2021. And he first posted on his Louis Whitaker Instagram on March 29th of 2021, and then May 22nd of 2021. In October of 2021, he launched his website, thelouiswhitaker.com. And I have a link to that Out and About PV article in the show notes. You can read the rest of the gory details there. I'm not going to do that here. According to the article, however, Louis, or Wyatt, whichever you like, if found guilty of these crimes, could spend the rest of his life behind bars. He's a young guy, too. I think he's in his early 20s. But we'll keep an eye on the case as the wheels of justice grind away. My friend Marsha Blondin actually introduced me to Louis last spring, and he was on my list. He was on my list for an interview when I come back to town next week. And Louis Wyatt had just started doing a gig over at, it's kind of a song and dance routine over at La Capella, over at the Bellevue Historic Boutique Hotel for their Sunday and Saturday champagne brunch. So I'll just scratch that one off my list. Do that right now. Now, next week I'll tell you about some shady people that I've met in Paradise over the years. There's been a few, and hey, maybe another topic for another show. What do you think? Maybe you all met a couple of shady folks, too, you want to talk about. Last week, I announced the upcoming Vallarta Chili Cook-Off that was supposed to take place on the 18th of February over at Puerto Magico. And, well, things did not go as planned. It seems the admiral in charge at the port put the quash on the planned chili festival less than 2 days before the event was going to be taking place, sending participating chili cooks and all the planners just scrambling for a solution. However, in the end, the charity event was canceled or postponed, according to my friend Dean Rager from Cacao Magico and from Puerto Magico. Of course, the worst part of that cancellation with such short notice is that all that chili that may have been cooked, before the event, or maybe even just the fixins that were purchased, for cooks to get ready to cook, all that stuff had already been done, I'm sure, and the bands that were lined up to donate their time basically had to take the day off. So anyway, I'm going to be talking with Dean next week. When I come back into town, I'll be reporting back to you, and we'll find out when they will reschedule the chili cook-off. I'm hoping that is going to be the case. So speaking of coming to Puerto Vallarta, I'm going to be back on the 27th, just a few days from now, for more than a week or so of recording. We'll be recording some interviews and doing some exploring while I'm in Vallarta. I will be crashing JR's meet and greet over at Nacho Daddy over on Tuesday, the 28th of February. That happens at 6:30 in the evening. I'm going to be there with my microphones and my recording equipment, and we'll have an open microphone podcast. So if you're visiting town, please stop by, say hi. Listeners are always the best. You always have the best ideas. You always tell me the greatest stories. And if you are, a charity in Puerto Vallarta, or if you have a business or a restaurant in Vallarta, and you want to share with my listeners, stop by, spill the beans, or come on down. We don't bite, and we don't want your hard-earned money. We don't want your treasure. This is free advertising, We don't want your stinking pesos, We don't want your free booze. We don't want free food. We don't want lodging, no hookers, no blow, nothing like that. Promote your business. All we want is your Puerto Vallarta story. That is all. So, anyway, if you can come join JR and me over at Nacho Daddy. Of course, that's over in the romantic zone of Puerto Vallarta. It's on Basilio Badillo 287. And, of course, that's, again, Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. This coming Tuesday at 6:30. We're going to hopefully go until about 8:30. And I hope we're going to see you there. Come on down if you're in town. And if you can't make that meet and greet, I'm going to be down in Boca de Tomatlan. The following evening, I'm going to be on the beach with some friends over at Restaurant Los Mangos. We're going to be sipping some cold drinks and having some botanas, some snacks. And we're going to be there from 4 o'clock until 6. So I'll have my recording gear with me as well. If you could come, if you can make it, I'd love to see you. And of course, the same goes as with the previous evening. Come with your Puerto Vallarta story and share with my listeners. All of them are lovers of Puerto Vallarta. All of us. And once again, that's over at Restaurant Los Mangos in Boca de Tomatlan. Now, next week, I am also going to be posting an interview that I had with Fernando Vasquez from Pacific Vape. Fernando's going to be talking about giving up cigarettes for vaping, how it affected his life, and how it helped him to continue enjoying smoking without really smoking. And he's been in Puerto Vallarta for decades, and he's got some really great stories and some great information beyond the vaping thing, which with the crushing new anti-tobacco laws in Mexico, this conversation should be interesting, I think, to everyone. All right, let's get to Emily, our guest, shall we? I became familiar with our guest, Emily Murray, through her writing. In fact, over the years, I've even read bits of her writing on this podcast. I think one was her description of the term septiembre here in Vallarta, and the term actually refers to the month of the year, September, when tourists are few and when restaurants close to do renovations or the owners slip away for a little vacation time. But the workers, they've got no money to eat because, there's no work. And so septi, meaning September, and hombre, meaning hungry. The combination is the word that she wrote a little story about. There might be one or two over the last 6 years or so doing the show, but at any rate, I like her style of writing. And over the years, I've received not just a few emails from young single women asking me when I'll have someone on that's more their age range, I guess, someone who's not retired and still needs to earn a living. And how does a single woman from the U.S. or Canada make it work living in Mexico? I guess my question is, are you willing to take a risk? It can be scary to take risks, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. And Emily was able to find success in Vallarta, and it all started with her willingness to take a risk. Now, taking risks can be difficult, but it can also be the key to unlocking your potential and finding success. So, and happiness. So let's go right now. Let's go to one of my favorite restaurants in Puerto Vallarta. It's located right in the middle of the romantic zone. We've actually been there on many occasions now, and the name of the restaurant is Restaurant San Lucas. If you've never been there, you got to go. It's located upstairs, right on the corner of Lázaro Cárdenas and Insurgentes. It's right across the street from the taco stands that line the street right alongside Farmacia Guadalajara. So let's go right now to Lázaro Cárdenas 355, and we'll go upstairs to Restaurant San Lucas and meet Emily Murray, writer, blogger, yoga teacher, and entrepreneur in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Emily, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what was your path that led you to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, I am originally from Seattle, Washington, and let's see, the path that brought me here was actually through my dog, who I adopted from here and had her sent to me to live in Seattle. And then about 6 months later, I was chatting with that friend who rescued her on the streets of Vallarta, and we were talking about writing and jobs, and I said I was looking for something new, and she said, oh, you should come down here and write for me. So
Really?
I said, okay, and so that's how I ended up here.
You were writing before? You were writing in Seattle?
No, I actually wasn't. I worked for Amazon.com in Seattle, and I really wanted to get out of tech, and I didn't want to work in that environment any longer. And so, I left, and what my friend was actually talking about was stuff that I write on Facebook. And she said that she just liked the things that I write on Facebook, and she owns a tour company down here, so she needed somebody to write like travel blogs and fairly easy pieces to write. So
Right.
I felt confident that I could do it, and so I said okay, and so I moved down here and started working with her.
Well, how long ago was that?
That was January 1st of 2015.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So you've been here for 7 years.
Yep,
A little over
nearly
7 years.
8,
Almost
yeah.
8, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And that, just from that conversation.
Yeah, the friend who I moved down here to work for, I grew up with in Seattle. I've known her forever, so it was really an easy decision, actually. And the leaving of Amazon and the trying to start in a new job and having that not work out was just, there was a lot of reason to go ahead and take the leap. It was kind of like the universe saying, hey, you should, would be a really soft place to fall.
Yeah.
So you should go. And so I did.
And Puerto Vallarta was a place that you've been before?
Yeah, I had been here numerous times before for yoga retreats. I would come down annually at least, usually a couple of times a year, to go to retreats in Yelapa or in Sayulita or around the area. So, yeah, I had been here a number of times, and actually, wow, it's nearly 20 years ago now. I sailed a little boat from Seattle down to Zihuatanejo, and I spent a winter here in Vallarta on the boat.
Oh, how cool
So
is that?
that was winter 2002.
2002.
Yeah, 20 years.
So now how long was that journey? You went from Seattle to, obviously you were doing like dunk holing. Were you going down and making a lot of stops?
Yeah, we left Seattle in late August. And then there's actually a thing, well, you've spent time in Vallarta, you know that we have hurricane season. There's a thing with boat insurance where you have to stay above a certain latitude. Uh-huh. So the trip down here was about 9 months, but it wasn't all sailing,
No, it
obviously.
wasn't, yeah.
That was a lot of leisure time.
Because that's downhill, right? That's downhill in sailors' terms.
Exactly. That was a lot of downtime, but we also had to hang back until after November 1st. It's latitude 22, I believe, that you have to stay above, which is Cabo
Interesting.
Area.
Wow,
so.
that's interesting. So it's all about insurance.
Yeah.
About the money.
Yeah, well, it made sense to not,
sail in hurricanes.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
So
I understand.
So we
Totally
decided
get it.
to follow the rules.
Yeah. All right. So that's pretty cool. And that must have been wonderful, spending so much time Now, were you in the marina at the time, Marina Vallarta?
Yeah, we were in the marina, and that's actually where I spent most of my time. And so, yeah, when I actually moved here, I really hadn't spent a lot of physical time in Vallarta proper.
Right. Just out on the water and in the marina, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, most of that winter was spent in the marina, and which was great. It's just a different crowd. Boat people are different people.
Yeah, they are. That's for sure. All right, so you arrived. You can't make a living writing for one person. So how did you develop this, well, I guess it's a career, right? I mean, this is what you're doing.
Yeah, it's been kind of a circuitous route, I suppose. So I was writing for her and still do, actually. And after that, a former colleague of mine at Amazon actually started a consultancy for Amazon sellers who need to stay compliant with their products and also put their catalog up and need to know how to manage and do all of that. So when I was at Amazon, I worked in the product safety and compliance department with her. And so she started the consultancy and she needed help. So I was one of the founding partners of that consultancy. So for a couple of years, I actually did consulting for Amazon sellers. And I also wrote our web copy and our blogs and things like that. So I started getting more experience with other types of writing.
Right, because there's all kinds of writing, right? I mean, there's creative writing, there's storytelling, there's technical writing.
Yeah,
right?
there are. And that's actually, so what ended up happening was I didn't stay with Cascadia, the company that we started, but I did move more into writing. And one writer here locally kind of took me under his wing and helped me learn more about the professional side of writing and the technical side of writing. So he's given me lots of opportunities and jobs to write like really technical papers and, lots of brainier kind of stuff.
Right, sure.
So I've been able to add that to the list of things that I can do. And yeah, it really is. There are so many ways that writers can help that it's almost difficult to stay in one place. Like one person's a blogger. I write a lot of blogs. I can't imagine only being a blogger,
right. Sure.
I also do a lot of SEO work. I'm working on a huge project right now that's just basically picking through someone's Amazon catalog and seeding their detail pages with keywords and making that somehow sound good.
Right. And
which is a completely different ball of wax.
And help people. What does SEO mean?
Search engine optimization.
Right.
So SEO is making sure that you use the words in the piece that you write that would be the words that somebody searches in Google.
Right.
So
and not be too obvious about it too, right?
Right,
yeah.
exactly, because you can always tell when you are reading something that is, we call it keyword stuffed, when it's just stuffed with all those keywords and those search terms that people are going to use. It doesn't read very well. So that's part of the challenge of writing something in an SEO way, is to make it smooth and still fit all the words into the puzzle.
Right.
Whereas blogging is, more telling a story, and white papers and things like that are more selling a product. There's just all kinds of different ways to write things and kind of grab people's attention.
So how do you cultivate how do you put that into a money kind of a maker so that you're not like starving for a month at a time? How do you do that?
So for me, it really did matter my network. I still do write for the same person that I moved down here to write for. And, when you do good work for people, they will recommend you to other people. And so it's just been a building up of,
right.
people
so
I know.
You got to be good.
Yeah,
right?
You should be good at what you do.
Right.
Yes,
if you're not
definitely.
good, just don't even bother, okay?
Definitely.
Don't bother.
Don't.
All right, so you're also writing for the Tile Park, yes?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I write the blogs for the Tile Park, and those are wonderful. Those are another completely different ball of wax.
Well, I really love those because you get into the individual that you are highlighting for a particular, for an article, right?
I love writing them too. They're wonderful to write. It's wonderful to meet the people. I do the same thing that you do. I get together with the subject and sit down with them and ask them questions, and I take that recording home and I make a piece of art for them out of it. And it's so rewarding to show them this thing. Here's your story, And it's always it gives me a lot of gratitude to do that for people because there's so much emotion wrapped up in that park. And everyone who has made a contribution to that park has a story to tell about why they did so. And usually it's a very touching story, So to be able to sort of make a time capsule of that, ultimately those blogs will be broken down and made into a book that people can buy with pictures next to the story of the piece that was made. So it'll just be a nice thing, to have to commemorate that park. And, it's been fun to be a part of it for sure.
Yeah, well, you really do a great job on that, I have to say.
Thank you.
You said you used to come here before, and it was on yoga retreats. So I know nothing about yoga. I know that it hurts when someone makes me do yoga. And I can't bend myself into a pretzel. And so is yoga for everybody?
It is. It is for everybody. It is. Especially as I get older. I've been a yoga teacher since 2007. And I was much younger and bendier back then too, and so my own yoga experience has changed, and it changes a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think the most important thing about yoga is that it's, especially the moves, the poses, the physical part of it is really just an ancient system of self-care. It's just a way to communicate with your body and take care of it, It's an ancient philosophy. There's tons of little, things about it. But, one of the main reasons that we do asana or the poses is, so that you can sit. It prepares your body to sit in meditation for a very long time. So, stretching your hips and stretching your back and all of these parts and getting everything moving in the right way. Because when your body is calm and mellow and you don't have hamstrings barking at you and, problems with your glutes and whatever, then your mind can start to ask the important spiritual questions that are the real philosophy of yoga, So the exercises are really just that. They're exercises. And, so as I get older and my own practice changes, it becomes more, I really need to stretch my hamstrings now, and a conversation with my body. So I don't spend so much time, 2 hours in a studio isn't really a thing I do anymore. But I always pay attention to whether my hips need stretching or my back needs, downward dog is a great pose. It really is such a good stretch for so many people. It doesn't need to be difficult. It is for everyone. It's just meeting your body where it's at is a challenge for the ego. When you have to admit that you can't touch your toes because your hamstrings are tight and that's where you are, you have to then you have to meet your body where it's at. You have to work with it and coax more out of it. And the way you do that is by being gentle.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't be painful at all because your body won't respond to that. You don't train a puppy by smacking it around.
No.
You train it by being really kind and sweet to it, So the same idea with yoga,
Wow, so my yoga instructor was being mean to me.
Yeah,
that is not nice.
That wasn't very nice at all.
All right, so it's about preparing your body for meditation. So you meditate, evidently, yes?
Yeah. Meditation is something that I've picked up more in the last couple of years. That was really more of a pandemic kind of thing, and figuring out how to be more still kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the beautiful things about yoga is that it seems like it's just, people in tight pants and a very specific subset of people in tight pants. But that isn't actually it at all. And I think that one of the beautiful and difficult, hard things about it is that you're human and your mind doesn't always do what you want. And that's why we have these practices, meditation wasn't really something that I was into in spite of the fact that I was a yoga teacher for a really long time because I myself couldn't sit still. And I think it was probably the pandemic and the uncertainty and all the weirdness around that and all of the stuff, that it brought up that really kind of helped me realize, like, you gotta get a handle on your thoughts and what's going on with your head,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now you teach. Do you teach classes here in Vallarta?
I don't teach classes here in Vallarta. I do have some videos online that people can use, but what I've kind of moved toward, since I'm not teaching full time anymore, and I started my blog, The Changing Room, I really wanted to make things more accessible for people on their terms. So I don't teach classes regularly right now because I want to give people an opportunity to study in their own way on their own time, which is something that I've tried to introduce on my blog so that people can care for themselves in the way that matters to them in the privacy of their own home.
Excellent.
So,
all right, so let's transition from here. Let's talk about the changing room.
okay.
When did you develop that?
That started after I left the consultancy that I started with my former colleague. I wanted to really get into writing. I really enjoyed writing our website content and all the things I had to write for us. So I really wanted to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed samples. I needed samples of my work. And I really wanted to move into the health and wellness niche because that's a thing that I know a lot about anyway and can write easily about. So I started the blog also so that I could learn how to build a website. It's basically a giant sandbox in a lot of ways. It's the place where I do my writing for the things that I want to share with people, but it's also an example of how I can write and graphics that I can make and work that I can do and websites that I can build and retreats that I offer. I don't teach regular classes, but I do offer retreats here in Vallarta, so people can sign up for those.
I've seen those. So you have them like in Yalapa, or
they're in Mismaloya.
I knew it was one of those rivers coming off into the bahia there.
Yeah,
but, okay, Mismaloya.
It's Mismaloya. I have a friend who has a gorgeous villa down there, and so what we've done is I've hosted a yoga retreat there last April, in April of 2022, I guess it was. And prior to that, I have taught there a number of times. I'm kind of the yoga teacher that they go to when they want a private yoga teacher, when people are staying there.
Mm-hmm. You're the in-house yoga person.
Yeah, exactly. So I've taught there a bunch, and it's just a really nice place to do some yoga. And so, but I also, back to the changing room and that kind of brand, I really like the idea of DIY and kind of taking care of yourself in the way that it matters to you. Because, like we already touched on with the meditation thing, sometimes things are lost on you for a really long time, So I like the idea of being able to explore on your own. And so instead of just making these retreats, yoga retreats only, they're actually retreats where you can choose your own activities to go and do stuff while you're there. So you can make it totally your own experience. You want to go horseback riding and I want to go snorkeling, and we can both stay at the same place and be on the same retreat and do different things with our day.
Wow.
And then come back for a wonderful dinner at the end and talk all about it. So
That's great because, there's people like me that don't bend so well. But
Yeah.
then, I could go do something else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or like a group of friends could come down and, we do yoga in the mornings at 9. And then after that, we have breakfast and the day's just pretty much yours. So if you don't want to do yoga, but you want to do all the other stuff, just don't be there at 9.
Yeah.
And, do the other stuff.
Right. Enjoy the retreat the way you want to retreat.
Exactly.
The way you want to retreat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about you. And so you can even, there's a chef there. She takes care of everything for you. So we get food preferences and things that you like to eat and things that you can't eat and what you like to drink or whatever it is. And, you make your own retreat.
Yeah.
It's a reset retreat.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. All right. So the changing room is it's kind of it's a scrapbook, right? It's got
Yeah.
everything, right? It's got it's your resume.
Yeah. It is
Basically,
sort
isn't
of.
it?
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like your writing style. And when you write about, a lot of times you write about moving to Mexico, which is pretty cool. And as a woman, a single woman living in Mexico and moving to Mexico, I think that might spur some ideas, some thoughts, some thing like that in other single women out there that might be thinking about doing the same thing. Do you get like letters and emails, and do people...
I don't get letters, but I do often get feedback like that,
Yeah.
where people just kind of want to know, women particularly want to know, how'd you do that, And the short answer is, it was a Hail Mary. The short answer is, I fell into it. I left one job and the next one didn't work out and I didn't know what else to do. And I think that that's a large part of the moral of my story is just go, I bought a one-way ticket for me and my dog, sold my stuff, and that's what I did, and maybe it's not something that everyone can do, and certainly it's not the wisest thing to do in all situations, but for
Right.
me it was the exact right thing to do, and so it wasn't so scary or so crazy, it was the best option.
Yeah.
It was a really good idea,
Sure.
and so it's come with its own challenges for sure, but one of the things that I know now, having lived away from the U.S. for a number of years now, is life is very insulated in a lot of ways, which can be good. But for me, I found that when I moved here, life gained a lot more texture, and that comes with a lot of crazy characters and sometimes some unsavory moments. But I think that's better than the alternative, which is just a whitewashed life that isn't necessarily as impactful as this one has been on me.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've had lots of good experiences, and everybody gets the negative thing going on, and I'm sure this is a macho society. You're a very attractive lady. I'm sure that you do attract some things that you would not like.
I do, but that's in a way that's exactly what I was just talking about. What I've seen in myself is that I get very demure. I won't necessarily exert myself. I won't talk back to you. I didn't before. Anyway, now I've learned, to kind of stand up for myself a little bit more, and not just kind of let things go by so easily. But I'm a different person now than I was when I moved here, and I know that that's partly because of the different culture and having to sort of recognize the areas, not necessarily that I'm weak, but areas that I could be stronger,
Yeah. Well, how's your Spanish?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's not awful. I understand a lot more than I speak, which I think is the case for a lot of people.
And it's important to be able to understand what people are saying.
And it's important to be able to communicate too. I always try, even though I sound like a fool. I would rather sound like a fool because it makes them... I almost think it makes them proud, like, oh, look, she's trying, they
like it when
they
you try.
appreciate that,
They do. They really
and that's,
do.
That's another thing that I had to learn when I moved here is you just don't know everything. You know, when you're in your own culture, you're kind of on autopilot a lot of the time. And then when you're not in your own culture, it really becomes apparent how careful you need to be and how much you don't know and how there's no handrails on stairs and you really have to watch out for yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a dog.
Yes.
And so people who are animal owners in Mexico, you have another set of issues going on, right? There's lots of dogs in Mexico, and there's things that dogs can eat that is not good, you know, lots of crazy bugs and frogs and issues, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how's that been with your dog?
It's been okay. You know, to be honest with you, I adopted her from here, and as I said before, I hadn't spent a lot of time in Vallarta proper, and so when we talk about, like, the dog situation in Old Town is different than in the marina. So I really wasn't aware of how awful the situation really was, particularly 8 years ago. So when I adopted my dog, then I made a couple of friends who were helpful in her rescue. And so I had friends down here on Facebook, and now I'm seeing, found this dog. Oh, this dog's been abused, like all of these things. And, you know, one of the only things that gave me pause about moving here was the animal situation and the likelihood that she could be poisoned or that something could happen to her. And when we moved here, it really is like that. You really do have to look out. And it's not just poisonings from people, it is frogs.
Yeah, right.
We have poison frogs,
yeah.
You know, you really have to look out. And so...
and they kind of work their way into your place, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, well, they'll just hide in corners. Like when I lived in Old Town here, I was up on Gringo Gulch, and there's lots of like just little places to hide in there. So they just, you know, go and just hide in the corner somewhere, and you're walking by and they move and you see them out of the corner of your eye and you're like, Ruby,
no, don't.
Exactly. And they get so curious too. She always wants to look, you know, and I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah.
She's very good. I think probably the best thing you can do is train your dog very well to leave it and know, like she knows certain words and use the tone where they know you mean business. And then she's pretty good. But yeah, you do have to look out. You really, really do.
Do you have places where you can run her?
Where we live now, we have 2 parks, and we go patrol them every morning. We smell all the smells, and the second park that we go to is a big park where the children play. It's next to a school that's right there, so it's a big park with a basketball court and lots of grass. So she runs around there, but she's not much for running.
Okay, all right, good. Well, I was thinking about my own dog.
We play a little fetch, and that's about it. But yeah, actually, that's a great place to run them. Is that park out there?
Fantastic. Good veterinarians around here.
Yeah,
I imagine.
Yeah, good veterinarians.
And probably not too expensive either, right?
No, vet care is wonderful. Yeah, vet care is cheap and good.
You ever have any trouble getting food? Good food? For the dog?
For Ruby?
Yeah.
No. She actually follows a raw diet, contrary to the food that she just had here today. She follows a raw diet, and I get her food delivered.
Thank you, Daniel. By the way, thank you, Daniel, for that.
So I get her food delivered from Carlos, the dog trainer.
A raw diet?
Yeah. So she eats meat, and a raw diet for a dog is about 80% meat, 10% bone matter, and 10% veg and organ meat.
Really? Wow.
Yep. So you just mix it all up, and she greatly dislikes carrots. So every day there'll be tiny particles of carrot in her dish that I have to clean out.
Yeah, you know that she's feeling well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I've told you 100 times I don't like carrots.
You don't like carrots. Well, let's talk about food. Let's talk about food, because that's really the thing that people really want to hear about, especially from people who live here. And so this is the bonus round. This is where we talk about, your favorite breakfast, lunch, and dinner places.
Okay.
So, I don't know, half the people I talk to don't eat breakfast. How about you? You eat breakfast?
I am not too
You
much
drink
of a
your
breakfast
breakfast?
eater. No, I go for a run every morning and then I eat fruit. I try to make my first meal of the day very heavy and good stuff. So I eat papaya and bananas and a big scoop of moringa and some other yummy things that hopefully keep me healthy. And then
Yeah, that's a good way to start your day.
yeah, and then I actually really like lunch. Lunch out is a great option for me because I get up so early, I go to bed very early. So lunch I like to do, and there are so many great places for lunch. It's really hard to pick. Palmar comes right to mind. I believe they open at about 2 p.m. They're right in Old Town.
Yeah, and they're on the beach, right?
No,
what is
they
this?
are. Palmar is. What street is it even on? It's a couple of streets down from where we are, and it's not on the beach. It's over by the New York Deli.
Okay.
It's on the same street as the New York Deli.
And what do they serve?
They have a really awesome salmon burger, which is amazing. They also have a great selection of burgers. Actually, there's also a shrimp burger, and what did I have last time? Popcorn shrimp, I think we got when we were
nice.
there, and yeah, lots of seafood.
So
And
Palmar.
yeah, Palmar. What else? Last week I went to La Dolce Vita on Basilio Badillo
How was that
for
one?
lunch. That was really good. That was my first time there, actually. I had been to the one on the Malecon,
Yeah.
but I hadn't been to this one yet, and it was nice. Very strong air conditioning.
Very good. All right.
Nice dining room.
Take note, everybody. I mean, high season's right now. It's actually cooling off a little bit, but yeah.
it's
we
good to
need
know.
it, yeah.
It's good to know. Summertime is when we go take a long time getting cash out of the ATM. We like to go to Costco and shop for vegetables for a really long time. Check them all out, see what there
Yes,
is.
indeed.
Let's see, what else is delicious for food? A couple of days ago, I went to Masame in Versailles, which is also delicious. I had the biryamen, which is a combination of birria and ramen.
Yeah.
And it was a vegetarian version. I follow mostly a plant-based diet, but I eat fish, obviously. So the one that I got had mushrooms, and it was very flavorful and delicious. And I went with a friend of mine. He got a big huarache, which is... What is a huarache? It's...
They make it out of the same thing. It's like a cornmeal. It's like the
Yeah.
same thing they make it out of a tortilla, and it's like usually in the shape of a foot.
of a shoe,
Yeah,
yeah. And you cut it and you can pick it up with your hands, and it's kind of like a thick tortilla, and then
Yeah.
with
It's like,
toppings on top.
They kind of like hollow out a little spot, and they
Yeah.
usually start with some beans, and then they put some meat on it, and then
Yeah.
whatever else goes on
Yeah.
top of that. Yeah,
That was really delicious looking. And then he also got an ensalada with calabaza, with pumpkin, and it looked absolutely fabulous. So that was Masame. And then Abulon. Abulon is probably one of my favorite places, also seafood.
I've got to get there, but every time I think about them, they're closed. You know, I think
Oh,
about
that's
going there at
sad.
night, and it's like I know that they close at 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
so I
that's-
got to get it there for lunch.
You got to get there for lunch.
Yeah.
Let's go there for lunch sometime.
We'll have to do that.
Let's go there for
Absolutely.
lunch.
So
You'll
what's
love
their
it.
when you go there? What do you get?
They have... There's nothing there that I don't like.
Oh, okay. So you don't go there just for one dish. You go there for like the whole menu.
They have wonderful tostadas. They also have a chimichanga, which the only other place that I'm aware of that has a chimichanga. Well, Gabby's has one, but also Nacho Daddy. But chimichangas aren't real Mexican food.
No.
So they don't have them everywhere. But Abulon, they humor us with a chimichanga, which is
we'll do it
amazing.
for you.
I get it with just shrimp, but I think it has bacon in it, or maybe it's chicharron. But
Sounds crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then they also have burritos and just really good ceviches. It's a really good place to go.
Nice. Yeah, well, I got to get there and maybe even like do an interview there one day. But first, I got to get there. That's important. How about dinners? You got any favorite places to dine for dinner?
Dinner. Bonito Kitchen is amazing. Either location is really good. Their original one in Los Tulas is really cool. They've got a neat little garden area.
Pretty, yeah.
I really love them. Let's see. There's also Florio's, also in Versailles.
So they moved, right? They had a fire at their place here in town.
It was around the pandemic. I'm not really sure exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I heard something about a fire too, but yeah, they had a restaurant in Centro,
Yeah.
and it closed during the pandemic, and they reopened in
Okay,
Versailles.
there you go.
So they've got a really cute space. They're going to outgrow it so fast. I've already been telling Miguel he needs.
Really?
You got to get a different place. He's growing so fast.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, they're really fun, especially in high season. They bring out the barbecue, and they barbecue in the street.
Nice.
Like half the kitchen is out in the street. So if you order like a steak or something, then you'll get it cooked right in front of you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no rules. It's it's
Yeah,
Mexico, right?
Exactly.
It's like, okay, we're gonna take this. We're gonna take this kitchen right out in the street. Yeah.
Who needs parking?
No.
You don't need to park your car here.
No.
We're going to cook here.
I love that.
What else for dinner? Let's see. There's so many good places. I also love Vitea on the waterfront, which I think a lot of people probably love, but that's been a favorite of mine for years.
Yeah, it's a great spot to people watch, and of course their food's great. I love their salad. I love their Greek salad. I sit down and I'll just sit and eat that.
Yeah. A place I went a couple of weeks ago that I didn't think I would. It was not something that I would think that I would go to. It was a friend's suggestion. It was Campomar, which is up across from La Isla parking or La Isla
The
shopping
center. Yeah.
The shopping center, and they. It's a huge dining room, and it's loud, and there's lots of families, and it's just so much action going on, and the food is amazing, and they've got like screens that are a story high, like the entire wall is just a soccer match that you're just watching while you're eating, and it's the environment was not really what you would expect for a high-end restaurant, and yet the food was incredible, and it was just a different experience.
Campomar.
So, Campomar. I really enjoyed it.
I gotta check that out too.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So what happens is, I put links to this in the show notes, so you can find it, of course, at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. I'll have a picture of Emily's smiling face. You come and take a look at that. I'll have links to the changing room as well. So all the things that she talks about, we'll have links to. If you had one place to take someone to in this town, you had to work, right? You had to write. You're going to go pick somebody up over at the ship. They had a day. You're going to take them and you're going to drop them one place that represents Puerto Vallarta. Where would that be?
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest question. A restaurant?
No, whatever you want it to be.
A place, just a place.
Yeah, I would say a place. Unless it's the restaurant that's the place.
Well, so my mind first went to a restaurant, and it immediately went to La Palapa restaurant. And I think the reason why is because toes in sand dining with a white tablecloth is such a novelty to so many people.
Yeah.
I've been here 8 years, and I'm still not over it. I can't get over being able to just eat outside with my toes in the sand like that. I love it. So if it were a restaurant, I think I would drop them there. And if it were just a place, I think I would drop them squarely in front of Las Letras, which is on the Malecon, the letters that say Puerto Vallarta, because you're also right in front of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is the famous church. And being dropped there, if you're hungry, you can go anywhere. It's not La Palapa, but it's still lots of good food right there. And that, I think, is the quintessential Vallarta. It's got Los Arcos there, which actually represent a bit of history, of the area. And I think I'd drop them right in front of the Puerto Vallarta letters.
Excellent. Wow. If you had a word of advice for someone coming for the first time, what would that be?
Advice for somebody coming for the first time.
And this is a vacationer.
I would tell them to enjoy it. I would tell them to keep their eyes open, keep your eyes peeled. There's lots of things to see. There's lots of things to know. There's lots of things to miss. So keep your eyes peeled and enjoy it. And, the first couple of times I was here, I really couldn't take my eyes off the ground because you're going to trip.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess I would also say,
As a word of warning,
just look out. Watch where you're stepping. But it really is so different from wherever you come from that it's an eyeful, enjoy it, but keep your eyes open because there's lots of things to see and take in. And yeah.
Have you ever, you've been here 8 years. During that time, did you ever think, what am I doing here?
No, I didn't think that because my life here now is better for me. And in spite of it being more difficult, there are challenges. Integrating into a different culture isn't, super easy. I've definitely had down times, but life here has always felt more purposeful, maybe, than there. And so it's never been an idea to move back. I don't really have any interest in moving back to the States. And I don't really wonder what I'm doing here, even though it's kind of funny that I'm here.
Yeah.
I don't really wonder what I'm doing here, I guess maybe because it's become comfortable for me. Like we're sitting in this restaurant now where we both know everyone here. We know all of the staff. We love them.
We sure do.
One of them stood up for me. He was my witness for my my residency hearing to make sure that I got my residency. Like I feel like I have important people here and important work to do in my life, and this place allows for that. Whereas I didn't feel so free to do those things where I came from.
I totally get that. All right, let's come back to the changing room. Tell everybody how we find the changing room.
The changing room can be found at www.thechangingroom.blog. And when you go there, there's probably about 100 blogs at this point that you can read through. And, they're about everything from menopause to brain health to supplements that you should take if you're over 40 to how meditation helps you. There's all kinds of different things there. I try to write things that either somebody has asked me about or something that I just feel isn't discussed enough. So hopefully the topics that people find there will help them learn more about themselves, but also invite questions, so they can continue in their own self-study and find things that intrigue them about their world, And you can also find information about retreats there, and there's also a ton of videos. If you want to do some yoga or Pilates with me, you can click on videos in the menu, and you can find probably 20 videos there. And what else? You can contact me there too. You can follow The Changing Room on Facebook, and it's got everything you need.
Well, I suggest you all do that. You should follow Emily because, you'll love her writing. And I have to thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're really, really busy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been really a pleasure meeting you and also to be able to introduce you to my listeners, and I truly appreciate that.
Same, Barry. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. What a lot of great information that was. And thanks actually for giving our listeners some tools, some great ideas for making a move and taking a chance. You are a bit of a role model for some of us, and that's for sure. And I've got links to the changingroom.blog. and all the wonderful information within that in the show notes. Of course, you can find those over at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. And of course, thechangingroom.blog is just like it sounds, thechangingroom.blog. And come on and take a look at what Emily has for you to improve your life. All right, well, that should do it for today. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant and excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, well, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you are considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com. That's JR's website. Reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing through him as a way of saying, thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you were going to use someone else, so do it, really. And when you do take one of these tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget his maps, his DIY tours, and I have links to all of those in the show notes. And once again, if you like this podcast, well, please take the time and subscribe and follow and share with a lover of Puerto Vallarta, or just give me a good review wherever you happen to be listening. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have links to the places that we talk about, interesting pictures and more, right there in my blog posts and in the show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already. All right? All right. And thank you so much, Emily Murray, freelance writer, blogger, yoga teacher, website builder, creator of the website. Her resume is at The Changing Room, directly from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I have links to her website at www.thechangingroom.blog. They're in the show notes, as well as the links to the places that we talked about. And it was a pleasure having Emily on the show to let everybody know that it's okay to take a chance, to take that leap of faith, knowing that with hard work, building networks and strong business relationships, maybe you too can escape the black and white world that you live in and add a little color and flavor. Thank you so much, Emily, for showing us the way. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you all to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. Solo camino eterno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, me brillas Puerto Vallarta.